5 deadly venoms. In this lesson, I'm going to do something different and discuss 5 MCs who rarely show up in conversations about lyrical MCs. In addition to being lyrical, these 5 MCs exhibit other traits that, in my opinion, warrant their inclusion in those conversations. The first MC is EST out of Philadelphia. He was originally with the group called 3D, who was later called 3 Times Dope when they signed to Arista Records. The first time that I heard EST was around '87 on a song called From the Giddy Up. EST is part of the Hilltop Hustlers that included Steady B, Cool C, and other Philadelphia MCs. Even though EST was lyrical, it wasn't always his lyrics that made him a point of discussion back in his day. It was his slang, his delivery, and his overall style. The word agniculus being his #1 slang word that he used pretty often. But he had his own style of slang that he employed throughout his discography. I was immediately impressed with From the Giddy Up as an overall song, but also EST's performance on the song.
My style is bold, yes spunky, the lies for your funky. As I get funky, you hang like a monkey on my tip. You dip, unintelligent drip. Rhymes don't kick, so you might as well skip along, cause you don't belong on a rap song. You get gone cause you're doing it wrong. When you speak, you can't be weak or strong. Look for what you feel, it's what you say goes on. My pattern is quick, dialect is slick. Clocking like a swatch watch, hear me tick. I'm a so original, Chubb was so imperial. Collaborating to make great material. First got into this and got this, but they were convinced when I rallied my intelligence. Girls I was on used to hate to have the talking. Nowadays they all let the fingers do the walking. Calling me up, saying, hey, what's up? Should've been like that from the giddy up. DJ Booth, Woody Wood got juice. Dance for the youth that be telling the truth. Everybody's coming out about the same time, so I had to get swift in the rhyme. Do you like the farmer went and did the potato? Plant you now, dig you later. Big mouths are always bragging. The way that the carriers have broke the wagon. Keep the girl away from me, cause I heard her. Make like a marathon and get further. Where I got to go, you know it ain't too far. Just because I'm dope, don't claim to be a superstar. Cause I'm an everyday running the mill. Getting over like over cause I choose to chill. Wish you would catch you, boy, my crew. You's a front, cause you was jamming from the giddy up. Put it there. You got it. Get it. Get it. Shop it out. Come on, get it done.
So EST had my attention from the giddy up, so to speak. His wordplay, his flow, delivery, all impressive. And the B-side, Once More You Hear the Dope Stuff, was equally impressive.
Once more you hear the dope stuff. 3D is officially in the house. Once more you hear the dope stuff. 3D is officially in the house. Yeah. Out to code this, and ain't no time to get warm. So get ready for the brainstorm. On my way, and I'm coming on strong. Oh, so correct, so you better get a move on. Rolling, controlling the gas, so I for a bankroll. I'm crazy like a fox. Keep a fresh knockdown in my socks. Never caught chillin' with a baldy lock. Now I came here to say some crazy knowledge. Wax the suckers who need a good polish. Joined by the 5 assassin on the fader. Shaking the cuts to rock the whole equator. Play on your favorite radio station. Hear the crystal clear manifestation. Making all the ones, taking the guns. You hear the voice of the true agniculus one. I was chosen to do all the shows and make all the dozen, clock all the holes in. I'm not a brother with a little bit of say so. Freak your mind like you're pumping a turbo. EST kicks it, cause I got a passion. I desire to stay in fashion. Cole getting busy on the tempo to let you know that I'm running the show.
EST said for the bankroll, I'm crazy like a fox. Keep a big knot down in my socks. Never caught chillin' with a baldy locks. It's the delivery, the style, the attitude, the wordplay, everything rolled into one that makes EST such a great MC and one that's rarely mentioned these days. I rarely hear his name mentioned when we talk about great MCs, but he definitely deserves that mention. On the giddy up, he says, my pattern is quick, dialect is slick. Clocking like a swatch watch, hear me tick. I'm so original, Chuck is so imperial. Collaborating to make great material. Again, it's not multisyllabic or any of the things that I've talked about on my previous lessons, because being lyrical isn't always just about the multi-syllabic flow or the Rakim Kumo D flow that I've talked about before, or even using big words. It's the way in which you formulate your words, the way you deliver your words. And again, I love MCs that have their own style of brilliant slang they put together. And you have to listen to the record multiple times at times to get what they're saying. I mean, on the very high end of that, a group like Camp Lo or De La Soul has a slang that almost impossible to interpret. You just have to enjoy it and kind of guess what they're saying. And on the lower end of that spectrum, you have a cat like EST who uses slang and he formulates it within his rhyme in a way that you can figure out what the word means, but it's really fly. Now in '87, 3D also released Crushin' and Bussin', and on the dope side on Hilltop Records. But it was the next year, '88, when they signed with Arista, when they really caught my attention again, and EST was once again on my radar.
Straight up, coming to you live, directly from Hunting Park. It's 3D in effect. Chuck Nice, DJ Wood, and the ES. Extra of my voice is coarse and kinda hoarse. Out tackling, crackle, feeling no remorse. Hijack, racking, six pack. Whoever's whack, organize them all in one big stack. Power move, phony rhyme, punks at random. Like I told you in the dope side, just can't stand them. When I rhyme reckless, I knock you senseless. Might have prevailed in the past, not with ES. To me, it's clean, reproducing the offspring. That can only be a result of consistency. I'm insisting on being consistent. And when you need a hand, man, no assistance over here. So don't you even think about it, Holmes. I recommend that you go for your own. Cause in this world, you gotta do for you. Can't worry about what the others are up to. The game of survival is filled with rivals. Won't be held liable for styles I stifle. I activate, captivate, and compensate for every last 10 seconds create. Of this you go fonder, start to ponder, put you back on track when you start to wander. A lot of you are waiting for 3D to slow up, but on that tip skip ain't nothing up. Straight up.
Now that was 1988. That was an Arista Records release. In fact, that was on the same single with The Greatest Man Alive, which is like their signature cut, you know, for 3D. But what I noticed early, listening for Technique, was that not every word rhymed within his verse. Now, there are MCs who will do that. Like you take an Eminem who does it to the extreme. And I'm an Eminem fan. I'm not a fan of his current stuff, and I'm not a fan of every song, but rhyme-wise, Eminem can't be denied. I mean, he's just sick with his wordplay, the way he twists words. That's just a whole nother thing. But he will mispronounce a word to a high degree. He really will mispronounce a word to make it rhyme with another word. But it's not something that really grates your nerves. It's not like when you hear it, it's like, oh, that was awful. He really twisted that word and messed it up. He does it, but he does it in an almost soothing way where he's really good with playing it off. Not every MC can do that. And again, on the other end of the spectrum, EST is not mispronouncing a word. He's just not rhyming the word with the previous word, but he's rhyming so rhythmically that it doesn't matter. So if you go back and listen to Raise the Roof by Public Enemy off the Yo Bum Rush the Show album, there's a verse, I think maybe his last verse. None of the words really rhyme on that last verse, but he's rhyming so poetically, it's really dope. And not every MC can pull that off. That's one of those don't try this at home type things. But EST does it very effectively on this song, and that caught my ear right off. He said, when I rhyme reckless, I knock you senseless. You might have prevailed in the past, not with ES. To me, heads clean, reproducing the offspring. That could only be the result of consistency. But then he comes back and catches it and says, I'm insistent on being consistent. And if you need a helping hand, no resistance over here. So, I mean, again, if you're checking for technique, that's technique. And again, not every MC can do it.
Soaking up stats like a household mom out to rob. Stop, so by the suckers who be swearing they clock. Cause ain't nobody taking my place. You know what I mean? Instead of guessing with some ES jeans, tight around your blue tang. So when you shake that thing, everybody wants you to shake it again. Feel it shutting up in my bones. Magically moved by the microphone. At first I just twitched in to get that itch real quick. You see me flicking up the on switch, sweating like a dog in front of sellout crowds, dipping them all in the 3D style. No matter how you hype up your 12-inch, they don't get it. They want my album, they gotta deal with it. You could have had yours out, but now I took you. Still ain't got one out, cause you're chasing funky hookers. And all the real slimmers jamming off my flow. EST's the unusual fellow. EST, the Nicholas one. The greatest man alive. EST, the Nicholas one. The greatest man alive. EST, the Nicholas one.
One of my favorites by 3 Times Dope. Again, just technique and wordplay all throughout the song. My name is ES Tizanism, cold getting businessism, rallying the funky dope razamutism. Hit you with the hardness, coming with the clarity, skying over suckers, defying all laws of gravity. Again, man, it's just, you know, MCing. You know, that's what we live to hear, man. This is real lyricism, and again, it's criminal that EST is a forgotten name. I think 3 Times Dope did 2 albums. The second album was a little more R&B. I know they had a song with Steve Arrington from Slave. They remade Weak in the Knees, and I think the rest of the album was a little more R&B than the previous, which, you know, was probably Arista Records, you know, trying to go in that direction. But, you know, again, that's no excuse for EST's name not to be mentioned at all when we see these different things online or wherever we're seeing them. I just never hear his name anymore. If there are other examples, definitely, of EST's mastery of words and delivery, but being that we got 5 MCs on here, I definitely got to keep it moving. But one thing I would like to say about 3D as a group, I love the way they position themselves and their image. Like, you know, one of the videos, they only had a couple videos, but the one for Greatest Man Alive, the way they had, I believe it was Chuck Nice on the drum machine, and he's tapping on the pads. You know, they position themselves like a mini band, you know, and then, you know, Woody Wood was the DJ. I think I'm getting that right. I don't think I'm inversing those 2 people. But I love the way they did that. And when you listen to their songs, when they were looping a sample, the drums behind it sounded like they were almost tapped out instead of programmed. It didn't sound like somebody was programming the actual kick and snare. It sounded like they was just, you know, freehanding over top of the sample. And that gave a nice little flow to the beats. Like, if you listen to Funky Dividends, if you listen to the loop that's going on, it sounds like the drums are being tapped out and not programmed. Greatest Man Alive also. It just sounds like it's freehand, and that gave a nice flow, and it gave a nice image to the group. So 3D was definitely a great group that's overlooked. And ES is definitely one of the dope MCs. The next MC is the Flavor Unit's Chill Rob G. Now, one of the downsides to making a hit record is that you're forever defined by that hit record. And sometimes you can seemingly appear as a one-hit wonder, and the other good works that you do, which many times are better than your hit record, especially lyrically for MCs, will be forgotten. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what happened with Chill Rob G. There's a whole debacle that goes along with The Power, and I've read the story, and it almost gave me a headache trying to see what happened with The Power. You know, there were 2 versions, and I definitely can't get into that. But The Power was a good record. It was a good dance record. You know, nobody can deny that. But it was 2 versions, and again, reading the story will just give you a headache. Somebody definitely bit off somebody because they're 2 identical records. So I don't even really consider The Power when I think about Chill Rob G, even though those lyrics were definitely dope on The Power. I just don't even talk about The Power. So there's so many other things he did, but none of them, of course, charted and hit like The Power did. So he's definitely one of those MCs that, to me, is criminally underrated.
Feeling significant, I can make a difference. You need an example, use this as a for instance. Put your mouth on pause, put your brain in gear. I'll you sassafras, raise your glass and cheer. As you get on your good foot, I hope that you never put your trust in unjust suckers who discuss ways of getting paid by criminal means. They having a sale on minimal dreams, doomed to fail. They caught your tail, your butt's in jail, you gets no bail. The scale was tipped, but you weigh little. There's a rock in a hard place, you're caught in the middle. Need a lawyer to litigate some legal dribble. Now you're back on the street like it ain't no riddle. How long will this last? You seem to love crime. Today you're out here, tomorrow you do time. Word is born, arm your brain and shoot. Yo, the state is cold, ready to prosecute. Oh, you think you smarter? The system's older. The ace has been dealt, you're now the holder. The name is Chill Rob, there is a good God. My rep is not scarred, I won't commit fraud. Can't say I lied, there's nothing to hide. I say with much pride, court is now in session. Friday night, we out playing the corner. Not because we hoods, cause we wanna. No drugs being sold, we ain't dirty. Polaroids in effect, watch the birdie. Turned around, heard the sound of sirens. The boys that collared me asked me where I've been. I told them that I was right here all night. Looking at each other, they smiled and said, alright, you think you're smart. You wanna be tough, get your ass in the car. You're coming with us. I said to where for what? I ain't guilty, the name is Bob D. You just can't milk me. Now I'm sitting in a courtroom all day. I claim I'm innocent, but that's what they all say. Bunch of my brothers lined up in the hallway to hear the type of price I might have to pay. If honesty is a crime, hell, jail me. Tapes I make to escape the daily routine. I'm too clean, you got nothing on me. Arrest that sucker for being so corny. I run the truth, make it plain and simple. Cops pop the big shots quick as a pimple. Snatch him off the street, drop him in the can. Chain him like an animal, forget he's a man. This might be a little raw for some to eat, but this is food for thought that I speak. If you can't stand the heat, I think you know the rest. This is live, not a test. Court is in session.
Now this is what I call grown man rap music. You know, if you listen to what Chill Rob G is saying over top of the marvelous sound bed provided by the great DJ Mark the 45 King, and there's a way to say things with finesse. You know, you can say that the cops harass you, and you can say it in a way where you just basically rhyming some words talking about the cops harassing you, or you can say it in a fly and artistic way, and that's what Chill Rob G did. That's the fork in the road that he took. Friday night, we out playing a corner. Not because we hoods, because we wanna. No drugs being sold. We ain't dirty. Polaroids in effect, watch the birdie. You know, and just instead of just saying the cops are taking pictures of us. He does it in a way that's poetic. And again, if you ever seen any of my lessons, everybody that I cover is a poetic MC. You know, like Chuck says, he don't rhyme for the sake of riddling. You know, just making rhymes. This is poetry. And these cats are very poetic and very vivid in their writing of a rhyme. And if you listen to the flow throughout the whole first verse, feeling significant, I can make a difference. You need an example, use this as a for instance. Put your mouth on pause, put your brain in gear. I use sassafras, raise your glass and cheer as you get on the good foot. I hope that you never put your trust in us just suckers who discuss ways of getting paid by criminal means. They having a sale on minimal dreams. I mean, wow, you know, there's no words for it.
It's a pity the way the city treats the poor. I got congressmen, councilmen, tell me what are they for? I write them letters, better I even give them a call. But they kick back, cool out in my city hall. I pay the tax, they max them, but they ain't passing off. They try to beat me, they treat me like they think that I'm soft. Pure power the hours later than you think. While they sleeping, I'm creeping because I'm on the brink of insanity. Vanity keeps my hygiene clean. Stop this and listen, and then you'll know what I mean. It's no mystery, history keeps repeating itself. I last longer, I'm stronger, my rhyme's completing itself. I put the pen to the pad and let the words flow. I put the mic to my mouth to make your mind grow. So nighty-nighty, alrighty, I'm putting heads to bed. You sound tired, you're fired up over what I said. There's no stopping, I'm cold, dropping your toy boys. No bull, I'm hitting you with the dope noise. Court is in session.
One of my favorite Chill Rob G verses, and one of my favorite verses in rap, period. This dude said, it's a pity the way the city treats the poor. I got congressmen, councilmen, tell me what are they for? I write them letters, better, I even give them a call. But they kick back, cool out in my city hall. Not only is he using multi-syllabic wordplay, listen to what he's saying. Again, this is an adult rhyming on the mic. Now, he can rhyme and talk about how good he is on the mic and how good the 45 King is. He can do the braggadocio. But this is a grown man. You know, I write them letters, better even give them a call. But they kick back, cool out in my city hall. You know, he's talking about the problems of the city, but he's talking about it from the eyes and the perspective of an adult, but still making it dope where the youth enjoyed it and can enjoy it. And again, that's just versatility.
Here's is a bright notion. Stop the commotion. I'll add my dosing. We cruising. The beat I'm bruising. You need coaxing. Fluid as I do with the motion is similar to the ocean. Bringing waves of emotion. This feeling that I'm dealing is so appealing. It's shocking. Look how I got you rocking and reeling. My rippling rhythm is reminiscent of a river when it's roaring. The king is reigning. I'm pouring this music. Yeah, you can use it, but don't abuse it. Move it. You said you were a dancer. Prove it. I was full of powerful percussion. Get you rushing online. When it's 45 king time, master of the game, marks his fame, marks his name. The 45 king is the self-same man who made the music that matched with the lesson. When I say good is in session, rhythms I can get paid just for riding them. Suckers seem to be afraid cause I'm sliding them, gliding them cold, dividing them when I cut them up. Hit them with speed, they don't know who I win, where, what. Word is weird when your song is wrong. On the strength, I go to length, cause I'm long and strong. Freedom of choice lets me greet them with a forceful voice, so they know I ain't no Oreo, I'm solid all the way through. What's up with you? My cup runneth over. Here's a drop or two. Rob is a roller, a writer, a schooler, and when it comes to gold, then I'm a jeweler. Feel it. Ride the rhythm. Don't face it, shoot it, freebase it, pour it in a glass, drink it, chase it, then chill, flex, feel the full effect. The impact is similar to a train wreck. It's whack to me when the beat is more hype than the MC, cause what he's saying is empty, dull, void, without substance or content. You need to slow your speed, stop the nonsense. These are the words of the rising sun, surprising some who thought I was just another humdrum. Average type non-MC who found the mic and thought he was hype. Nah, that's not me. I'll take a page, write a phrase, and rephrase it. Treat it like a national flag and upraise it. So a nation of people can feel proud about a brother who speaks out real loud. I'm here to rock the show, clock the dough, and let the words flow. Flow, flow, flow.
Now, those were the words or the lyrics from The Power, but that was actually Let the Words Flow. And again, even though it's associated with The Power, it was such a big record, just listen to the lyrics, you know, dull, void, without substance or content. You need to slow your speech, stop the nonsense. These are the words of a rising sun, surprising sun. Come on. I'll take a page, write a phrase, and rephrase it, treat it like a national flag and upraise it. So a nation of people can feel proud about a brother who speaks out real loud. Again, you can hear that so many times, and because we were dancing to The Power again, whichever version, it was one that really packed the dance floor. So you're not always checking for lyrics when you're listening to an anthem. That was a dance anthem, but it was strong lyrically.
What type of thing are you into? These rhymes I'm bringing you are sort of like slinging you. I'll tell you a thing or two. I see what's in front of me. The G is no wannabe. I hope you know this ain't as hype as it's gonna be. I know I'm original. The G is no criminal. Never switching position cause the condition is terminal. I do what I gotta do like a brother supposed to. I'm living my life right like I took an oath to. I'm pushing my way through. I won't let you slow me down. Chill is a prefix. Rob is a proper noun. G is for greatness. I don't wanna debate this. The way that I'm rising, I appear to be weightless. I may sound crazy. This might look easy. Suckers don't faze me. Crabs don't squeeze me. You wanna know the time? Bust the rhyme. Here's my favorite line. Let me show you.
Again, when we're talking about wordplay and flow on the mic, this is just highest level. I mean, what kind of thing are you into? These rhymes I'm bringing you are sort of like slinging you. I tell you a thing or two. I see what's in front of me. The G is no wannabe. I hope you know this ain't as dope as it's gonna be. I mean, that's, I'm living my life right like I took an oath to. This is before gangster rap really had a stranglehold on things. It was already out there and it was out there, pretty strong, but it hadn't quite choked everything out to the point where everybody was scared to be positive and, everybody wanted to be super hard. Until Rob G was a positive cat, sound like a responsible, on his grown man shit, but not corny. And you can be that. You can be responsible, adult-like, You know what I'm saying? And still be a good MC and not be corny. And I love the fact that Chill Rob G represented that. Definitely a great. The third MC is the great Chubb Rock. And you know, Chubb Rock, again, just like I said with Chill Rob G and with 3 Times Dope to a little bit of a lesser degree, having a hit record, you know, as an MC who's trying to be a credible MC, it's always good to have a hit record. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes having a hit record can lock you into that hit record. So, you know, the blessing is that Chubb Rock can still tour heavily today off of Treat 'Em Right, but at the same time, he might not see it as a curse, but to me, as far as his reputation, or better yet, his legacy as an MC, is kind of a curse that as soon as somebody says Chubb Rock, people are going to, 1990, Chubb Rock jumps upon the scene. And that was a good song, but it was nowhere near his most clever or his best. Now, Chubb Rock came across my radar around 87 with a song called This Is So Hard. And it was on the flip side of Rock and Roll Dude. And because Chubb Rock is so comical, I didn't know how to take it. At first, I thought it was a novelty record, you know, somebody trying to be funny. It wasn't novelty like Rappin' Duke novelty, but the way he did his voice, and he was so comical, I didn't necessarily take him serious on the first single. But I did hear Technique. I definitely heard Technique, and ironically, I didn't take Rakim serious on the first single, and many people didn't. Now, that's hard to believe, but you know, in retrospect, but many people, because of Rakim's voice, it was such a different voice. Even MC Shan said that when he was in the studio with Rakim, that him and Marley Marl were laughing. And when I first heard My Melody, which I heard before I heard President, I kind of thought he was trying to be funny. Same thing with Slick Rick, and that's another whole conversation. And I hate to get off like that, but yeah, when I first heard Chubb Rock, I like, this cat can rhyme, but is he being serious? Because I just didn't know yet.
So hard. As for a battle, when I finish, you can't live. 'Cause the name Rock is a hard adjective. I bust into the club and rock like the devil. And then it's time to destroy the upper level. I used to be humble, but now I rumble. Every city that I go to will soon crumble in pieces and ashes, dots and dashes, abbreviated periods, commas and slashes. I cause a lot of problems, not a few but several. I'm just like the guy in Tasmanian Devil. I can shock Robin Hood by Rocky Maid Marion. I'm tougher and rougher than any barbarian. So hard.
Now, on this particular single, Chubb Rock was not a solo artist. He had his partner Domino with him, and he had kind of an animated voice as well. But on this single, This Is So Hard was the more serious of the two. Rock and Roll Dude, I didn't know how to take it at first. And probably one of the more historical points about that is that it's the song that Johnny Juice was cutting up for Rebel Without a Pause, the rock and roll part for the actual hook of Rebel Without a Pause.
Well, I'm a DJ innovator when it comes to scratching anything I want to scratch. I'll scratch, there's a match in my style. I get wise, so just shut your face. And students, don't ever try to base with Howie G.
Rock and roll.
People brag about rap music because they feel rap music's number one. Well, in this day and age, it's on the rampage, and rock and roll had just begun to influence us and all MCs from Brooklyn, clear across the 7 seas. And as we proceed to ill, don't even try. Rhythms like this are invented by Howie D. Rock and roll, dude. Rock and roll. Rock and roll, dude. Rock and roll.
Now, the next time that I heard Chubb Rock, it was very obvious that he wasn't playing around. And that was on a DJ Innovator. Again, Chubb Rock, you know, I have to give points to Chubb on a couple things. First of all, his delivery. His delivery is probably the most unorthodox outside of like a Slick Rick who uses different voices. And I'll definitely do a lesson on Slick Rick because there's a way he records his voices, and it's almost like a split personality type thing. And Slick Rick is just very innovative, not just in storytelling, but vocally. I don't mean lyrically, vocally, he's very innovative. And Chubb Rock is very innovative. Lyrically, Chubb Rock is very underrated. He's crazy lyrically. Vocally, he does these inflections and these different things with his voice, and it's always comical. I mean, Chubb Rock is highly underrated for his delivery. and on the song DJ Innovator, where he's basically bragging about his DJ Howie T and himself, but it's in a very comical way, and it's over such a dope beat over the Rockin' Chair by Gwen McCrae. Check it out.
On the wood like Jamaicans. Just easy. And my DJ is very scary. He has a multitude of cuts and he's also very a learning model to things that are new, containing a meaning, a moral, or what have you. I'll rap hard, sing like Rigoletto, and we shall acclaim fame right in the ghetto. And how we can anyone take you out? Nah, I thought you might have lost it. What? Well, I'm a DJ Innovator. Well, I'm a DJ Innovator. Well, I'm a deep. I should think you might remember the faces. I'm Chubb rocking behind me 10 paces is a individual who's happy and gallant, a remarkable producer who's showing his talent, playing synthesizers, making musical chords. We'll be sitting next to Janet at the Grammy Awards, and all the stars will never figure out why a rapper like me is filling up Janet's thighs. And I will be rubbing elbows with Frank Sinatra, cause when I perform, I gotcha.
So yeah, DJ Innovator was a hot song. It was a really hot record in like '88, and it showed you a glimpse of Chubb Rock and his humor. And the next song that I really paid attention to from the full-length self-titled LP was a song called "Caught Up."
Well, I'm nimble, and I'm nice like Kris Kringle. But yo, I got caught, got swindled. Me and a couple of boys in Kings Plaza, walking through the mall to see if they had a couple of shirts, a few pants. Just out of the blue, took a glance. In front of Macy's, I seen two girlies. One looked deaf, the other looked like Mr. Furley. With my ego trip, my Wilson flip, I used my lip to get both on the sneak tip. Then I sicked it. Kicked it to the ugly one, souped her up, I call her Lipton and honey bun. Things like that, gibberish and crap. She's a skeezer, there's no need for chit or chat. Her body looks all kinda good, yeah, but as for her face, Jabba the Hutt, I should have played Michael Jackson. Told her to be that I said, what the heck, I got a condom, freak it. Her nickname now is Mona the Rover. She looks like a dog, so I dogged it on the sofa. For some dumb reason though, it was fun. Now she's looking good to me, I'm caught up, part one. With an ugly girl, but hey, I'm gonna kick it to the pretty one today. She seems nice and she's a fly cutie. Called her up, I said, hi, my name is Chubbs. Her name was Judy. I don't have to tell you guys the rest, but I asked her to go out. She said yes. Took her to the movies and then to my house. Led the girl straight to the couch, and like a game, I have to score. Dim the lights, get the 2-ply condom from the drawer. Took off her shirt, and only then I asked the question. Yo, who broke when? Something smells bad, dag. It won't let up, it was Judy, the cutie. Yo, word up, so now I got an ugly girl and one with a smell. But which one should I choose? Oh well, I'm caught up.
Again, this was a time when it was not, it was not. No one was bashful to be comedic or show their humorous side on the mic. Not just Biz or people like that. There was plenty of cats outside of the Biz and Fresh Prince who were just comical cats, and you can hear from the story, his delivery. He's showing early signs of what he would do later with his voice. She's a skeezer. There's no need for chit or chat. Also, she looked like a dog, so I dogged it on the sofa. Just, misogynistic as hell, but, all in good, clean fun. And his whole first album was really full of just humor. And, he got serious too, but it was full of humor and just excellent wordplay and excellent manipulation of his voice.
I ride the rap train most every day. Take the LL. Cause I'm cool to the J. I'm a fat boy, too fat to run DM, and you'll see I'm cool, I give you mo, cause I am deep. To Grandmaster Flash and Jet in a Jetta. And on my food I use salt and pepper. I'm a public enemy, so a love bug like to ski like Joe. Cause I'm in love with the alphabet I use. A, then Eric B, forget the rest. Go to S and sweet T. Conceited, I'm not, I'm just convinced. Jazzy like Jeff, so the freshest prince in the stadium. And so at the Palladium, the record goes platinum. But I'm like uranium, heavy indeed to get the rest of my boys to make a boogie down production. Kick the noise with rocks with the box. Touche, Shantae, I like the whistle. Cause I'm a kid and I play a lot. And so I hit the spot. Yo, Howie passed the rag, I'm hot.
Now, I love what he did with that verse, the way he strung all the rappers' names together. You know, I ride the rap train most every day, take the LL because I'm cool to the J. I'm a fat boy, too fat to run DM, and you'll see I'm cool. I give you Mo because I am D. You know, he strung a bunch of names together. So still just, you know, all in good fun. But he was still very much under the radar at that point. But his next single, which was like the bridge between that style, that voice, because he still hadn't mastered what voice he was going to use yet. This single was like the bridge between that style, that album, and that voice to his next album, which was an album called And the Winner Is. But the single was You Bad Chubbs.
With music, they just be pumping, while hits just be dipping. The intention is for humping the floor. Shining the wood with your jeans, it's denim. Don't worry, it's hip-hop. Don't hammer money, earning concern. And I'll be teaching and learning. Getting high from my rhymes and my looks. Not from bourbon, no solution, no remedy. No cure like a deodorant, yo. You have to be sure that if you talk up and walk up into my face, that you wouldn't become a big public disgrace. Cause I'll ban you, burn you up and tan you, treat you like the elephant. And man, you would be hocked and locked in a jar with a lid hanging on the wall of Michael Jackson's grip. Cause I'm bad. In fact, I'm a thriller. I drink milk, that's why I'm a top biller. Like a funeral home, I'll make a killing. I'm not Giz, even though I'm still chilling. Guys say that I'm scary, girls say that I'm cuddly. Rough like bark, but dark and lovely. This ain't no game, and I'm no toy. Like Anita Baker, I'll bring you joy with my word when I open my mouth. Scare Oliver North to go and break south. A homer is a noter, but you know I smack a faggot. Boy, you gotta see me, I'm rich like Jimmy Swaggart, I'm a loon. And you know, coming soon, a rhyme kick to this Popeye tune. This is hip-hop with a little bebop, and I won't flop, cause I can't stop. I will mop up the stop and then go to the top. I am not RoboCop, I'm Chubb Rock.
Now, at this point, Chubb Rock still hadn't really got his footing and really, again, hadn't still found his delivery and voice yet. He was very close to getting there. But in my opinion, from my memory, the single that really catapulted him and really got him out of the little bit of obscurity that he was in was a song called Caught Up, the remix or part 2.
I'm not hot, but I'm burning while I'm burning warm. I'm like a wizard. I make a blizzard and a storm. Have knowledge from a college with a dorm, and I'm greater than Schwarzenegger. I'm strong, you be hurt when I sing a Levert song. I'm storming like Norman, but my name ain't Norm. Biting is a crime, so I'll drop the dime and go on and on to the tip top. Give a tumor and some humor, cause I am Chubb Rock. When you chuckle, hit you with a belt buckle and beat you. Eat you with a pig knuckle, don't flex it. Yo, you better hit the exit. You need a value pack, you little anorexic. You'll be yawning in the morning at the crack of dawn to the groove. It's your move, you little pawn, wanna rip it. Cause if it is specific, I'll just say checkmate. Then move the bishop to queen level 4. Know what's in store? Sing to the king, then take the board to the crib. Before she can't think again how I knock the boots from here to Michigan. I'm caught up.
Man, woman, earth, infinity.
Rock that shit, homie! Mr. Bush, you better check out your own part in the divine drama. You may find you the villain.
Listen, cause in 1990, Chubb Rock and the gang is on a band mission. Hostility will brew like a Jamaican stew, and ooh, filled with dumplings. Hopefully no dumplings, like guns will be present while I keep the people jumping. Not too much, South Africa isn't free yet. I spoke to the kids from Brooklyn to Teaneck, New Jersey, and they heard me while I cursed the white minority regime, painted an ill scene. Brothers and sisters over there dying. Mandela in a cell in Robben Island. Thank God he's out now. And while I sing, I know he has things in a full swing gear. This year, crumb snatcher thatcher, we're gonna catch her being a klutz. Her husband is a drunk putz. He acts absurd. Now what's the word? Johannesburg. Johannesburg. It's the hitman, yes, the hitman, yo, you know it. The thirst quencher, the man on the sequencer. He was scared to kick a 16 bar. He's not a rap star, not saying that I am, but on the jam. I'm gonna kick a little, not a Dr. Seuss riddle. No cats in hats, fox in some socks. But to the DJ jocks, check your clocks. Half past what? Time to bust nut. Not a pistachio, he uses a Casio keyboard and a Tascam board. The quick in the B50, get nifty. Born with the gift, time to get tipped. Not with the manufacturing of a spliff, he never wrote one, never sold none. The beats give me the high that brought fame to us, and how we gonna kick it, huh?
And as you can see, Chubb goes from being, comical in his delivery and then being very serious in his subject matter when he was talking about the South African situation back in 1991 with What's the Word. And of course, Just the Two of Us was a classic. And it seems like every album, Chubb mastered more and more his delivery and the comical and humorous parts of his delivery. Chubb made a lot of albums, and I can't go through each one, but I'm just picking the ones that stand out the most to me as being memorable for that delivery and just the lyrical cleverness that he exhibited on those songs.
Chubb is a lovable guy, not the Teddy Riley group. It deeply grieves me if you say I'm soup. I'm really not, and I don't really think I am. But I'm convinced that I can make a funky jam. So if you wanna support the man that's gonna jump up on the scene, deliver lyrics that are sorta mean. With the cream of the crop, Chubb Rock will never stop, showing his intelligence quotient. Things are potent, prime time riding, exploding, blowing, and knowing that it's going to be considered the topic of hither. Feelings between the music scene while I move to the groove like a keen. Olajuwon, the dawn upon the team that plays real calm. Ego all gone. Chubb doesn't like to be hyper. I wait for my prey and then I react like a tiger. Clip up, pick up, rip them all up and then I heard my history calling. Reading. Chubb never had a clue, and this is not what I was taught in school. And decoy made every grade was a ploy that misled the head of the bad boy. Robin.
Yeah, he said, I really don't, but then I really think I am. But I know that I can slam a funky jam. I mean, you just didn't get a lot of cats that would come out of that shell enough to get that comical. Or when he said, like Akeem Olajuwon, the dawn of the team that plays real calm, ego all gone. I mean, Chubb is, again, the more records that he made, the more comical things he did with his voice. One that I really always enjoyed was when the East versus West conflict was going on. He had an East versus West song, and he was really just flipping his voice crazy on there and just doing crazy things with, almost like I said, different personalities.
High sprung with the beat and the groove is sweet licorice. Whether you're whitish, redneckish, or no sniggerish. Whether you speak real good or you're just stammer, you're a city hood or you're just country mama. When I pray the rap kids would hit the top 10, but the illin' with the shillings making some dead yen scorn. Born, break of Zulu, dawn with a big apple, NY straight to California. Or Miami bass, swing based up the hoochie. If you sample George Clint, you praise Craze Bootsy or the JR. Texas kids with the hee-haw, and the DJ kids cut. It's strictly hip-hop. 1, 2, you don't stop. It's Chubb Rock with the Chubb and with the rock. Testing the waters a bit, cause I don't understand all this East-West bullshit. Whether you think Magic Johnson still has the magic, or when Michael Jordan left basketball, it was tragic. If Pat rules the Knicks or Phil Rodman is a freak, if we don't stick together, we'll be up shit's creek, people. After this single, there might be a sequel level, and what we can't solve, we'll leave for the devil. Me, myself, I don't care who's to blame. If the shit don't cease, we'll all have the same name. You can say fuck it, or have 2 quarters in the bucket. If you're folding sheets, or you're folding pure nuggets, it's still a nigga. If you get a record deal or a publishing deal, whether you're anorexic or you have sex appeal, you're still a nigga. Whether you're food stamping, jacket or mansion, whether you live in Compton or you're chillin' East Hampton, it's still a nigga. Whether it's weed or blow, your wife or your hoe, I don't care if you're mail rooming or your CEO, you're still a nigga.
That's one of my favorites by Chubb. And, subject matter, he was basically saying, when we were fighting against East versus West, it doesn't matter. In the eyes of the enemy, you're still a nigga. but he was saying it so slick, you know, he's like, if you whatever, you're still a nigga. And he kept doing that and came out and finally said it. So again, not a lot of cats comfortable enough with themselves to really get down like that and let their character, you know, open up like that on a rap record at least. But so much more I could cover with Chubb. And again, Chubb was a very lyrical cat. But on top of being lyrical, he really did a lot with his voice and his delivery. And again, if you hear Chubb mentioned, you hear him mentioned for Treat 'Em Right, which was, you know, a good dance floor classic, you know, back in 1991. But definitely not the best Chubb has done. Check out the One, that album. Check out And the Winner Is. You know, The Mind was a good album. He had a couple of good ones. The next MC is Grand Poobah Maxwell, originally of Masters of Ceremony. And the first time I heard Grand Poobah may have been on Sexy. And Sexy was a good song, but it was a special kind of song. It had a lot of singing in it. You know, it had my man Don Barron doing some chatting on it. This is a different kind of song that didn't really allow them to kind of spread out and show their talents as MCs. I think the song that first really made me take notice of Poobah himself might have been a song called Dynamite.
Word to the utmost, you get a feeling similar to the Holy Ghost. Bet your bottom dollar I can make your girl holler to this. Ain't lucky, it's charms and there ain't no tricks off for kids advertised by a rabbit. Beats done by Pooh when I made the shit a habit I developed many moons ago. Banging on tabletops in New Road. Grand Poobah Maxwell, truly not bully or newly. Won't catch my lips on a coolie or woolly. Nah, I ain't going out like that. On a bottle of crack, huh, picture that. I let the girls get strung. Boy, am I hung like the mighty Joe Young. The little drummer boy from up a pum pum. No need in worrying, cause here I come. Doc got the sidekick and Nick on the dance tip. Geo also, and that's the way it goes. Help, skelter, suckers want for shelter. I'm so hot, I might melt to Mr. Organic. No need to panic, masters of ceremony. It's cold running the planet, so get with it. If you ain't with it, then forget it. But somebody lit it, so it must be dynamite.
Now, Grand Poobah had a very dynamic voice, dynamic and humorous delivery, and really slick wordplay. And he didn't exhibit it. He wasn't there yet on the Masters of Ceremony stuff. But another verse on a song called Rock Steady is where he really started to shine and really get my attention.
Yo, check it out. This one will heat you up like it was Swiss Miss. And we came to do this upon a quickness. Straight up and down, smooth dip and gap. Breakdown, collapse, say your house is no hat. Maxwell with the manager whose name is Bill. I don't wanna, but if I want to, then I will. This one will hit the floor like an oil spill. And if you slide, every little thing is chill. Give me a home where the crack-a-lack heads don't roam. Like Patty LaBelle kicked it, I'm on my own. Yo, use the other one too. What if only you knew some of the things that a crackhead would do? Word, everything's the truth in what you heard. Bringing a stunt in my crib is totally quite absurd. Crack vials in the aisles, but enough on that tip, doc. Cause all I wanna do is just watch the back, keep the turntable. Are you ready? Well, let me finish. We're giving the shivers and quivers, and you stop breaking. Receivers are believers, underachievers are aching. Strong City is the label. Maxwell is quite able to climb upon the stage and have you swinging like a cable. So this one's for you, troop. Brothers find a sister if the girl is don't get in pursuit. No need to lag or lollygag. Masters of Ceremony is here to rag non-stop. I bet you that you wanna rock. Yo, it's time to push, doc.
Yes, indeed. That's another 1987 short shot. The 87 was a good year. Quite a few of the things we've been talking about on this lesson were like based right there in 1987. So again, Poobah's coming into his own. And that's the Masters of Ceremony stuff. And it will be maybe 3 or 4 years again before I heard from Grand Poobah that he would resurface as the front man for Brand Nubian. And definitely at this point, the style is all the way up there. He's found his voice, he's found his flow, his delivery, his pocket, and everything's clicking at that point.
I guess I'm like the verbalizer for the fact of moving black with the
universe. Manifesting thoughts with my infinite styles, making sure this travels 23 million miles. The other 6 I set the crucifix because the heart of the problem is this.
Big on it, God.
Preacher got my older putting money in the pan for the rest of the week. Now I'm eating out of soup can. He has a home, drives his caddy through town. Has my own earth believing that he's coming from the ground. Slain are those who fought for what was right. Slayed are those who fell victim to the pipe. A drug controlled substance contained in a vial. Said about a devil as he looks and he smiles. Good at the game of tricknology, but I have knowledge of myself. You're not fooling me. You see the answer to me is black unity, unification to help our bad situation. I wrote this on a day of wisdom, power, all being born of myself. I won't diss the next brother to be paid. It's not my trade. It's just a plan that is designed by the colored man. Now our babies are born to think this is the way of us. That's the way the devil wants it, so it is no fun. It's just that sad old song, self-destruction, to stop our reproduction. Then put our wisdom before us. Murderer. That makes it wisdom, knowledge. Murderer. But we need knowledge, wisdom to bring forth the understanding. Murderer.
Now, because of the format of a group like Brand Nubian, you know, I spoke on my Big Daddy Kane lesson about the nation of gods and earths and how they had the advantage of mathematics and slang and knowledge to open up a kind of different universe of possibilities lyrically compared to other MCs. And a group like Brand Nubian was almost like a concept group. Not almost like, it was a concept group, and it was to wake people up. In fact, that song was called Wake Up. And so what you had was, it was a little more difficult to come off a certain way with rhymes because most of their rhymes were, communicating knowledge to people, definitely heavily in the 5% theology. But there were some solo moments on the album and other moments where Poobah just really showed that he was definitely a top-notch wordsmith.
I hit a beat of swinging notice if my name was David Ruffin. Quick to toast an MC just like an English muffin. Don't worry about a thing because the Poobah's never bluffing. I get headaches from the whack, so then I take a buffin' and I max. I wait until the opportune time and then I tax. But should I max? Now they say sinning is for sinners, so I guess I'm not a sinner. Beginners for beginners, so I guess I'm no beginner. This is how I spark it, put money in my pocket. When it comes to having pleasure, I get hard as a rocket. MC Grand Pooh coming through all the residue. The songs remain classics dating back to the Babalu. My boys, I call them op. The phone's out of them jockin'. I can think of many episodes I swung in Lincoln Park. No, I'm not a phony and I got a tenderoni. Left the way she is, not too fat, not too bony. Don't drink shake, I won't sink like a tanker. Knock the boots off a skirt in Casablanca and I thank her. Some rappers stink like Engelbert Humperdinck. Better yet, Dick Cavett. I got a bad habit similar to the girl when she's got a habit. I think with the brain and I wish behind the zipper. I'm living kinda good, similar to Jack Tripper. A landlord named Roper did a show at the Copa. When I'm finished with this, I'll be paid like Oprah. So if honey wants to act fly, I'll just play like Guy and I'm stick out your thumb and hits, cause you've been cut off like a light switch. See, I'm programmed to slam winter, summer, spring, or fall. Before I do a show, I get some kicks out the mall. Then I get my gear and I give Trevor a call, cause he works in the barbershop right behind the mall. Other rappers try to rhyme me, but you know they got dead. To put it blunt, honey, I shrunk the kids. So bookers back off, breaking off, here comes the regulator. Bet you that's a fine one.
Yeah, so once again, this was definitely a great time. This was about 1990, 1991. I can remember that Tribe's album had just dropped right around this time. People's Instinctive Travels was new right about the time that this was popping. So again, you had a group that's really, even the name Brand Nubian, they're here to drop knowledge and wake people up in that vein of consciousness that was going on in the early 90s. But Poobah was also hitting you with some really slick wordplay and slick delivery. MC Grand Pooh coming through all the residue. Really killing you with the, I hit a beat and swing a note as if my name was David Ruffin. Quick to toast the MC just like an English muffin. Don't worry about a thing because the Poobah's never bluffing. I catch headaches from the whack, but then I take a buffer and I max. I mean, that's really laid back, slick wordplay and really high level showmanship as far as his delivery. Some rappers stink like Engelbert Humperdinck. Better yet, Dick Cavett. I got a bad habit, similar to the girl on She's Gotta Have It. I mean, Poobah was nice, and during this time, he was dropping joints with the Brand New Heavies. Yeah, he dropped joints on Mary J. Blige's album. All this was in the same time frame. Poobah was definitely the man that was in demand at that time.
Check it out. Well, honey, here's a hickey. Poobah's not a quickie. When it comes the skins, goddamn, I'm picky. Who would be the princess to occupy the prince? And if she's less than dope, I hope the limo's got tits. Now, honey, you see, this may sound profound, but let me love you down. And if I'm uptown, I'm back downtown. All the skins I've been in, I get no frowns. You see, doo-doo MCs really think they can outlast. I smell gas. As a youngin', I was thefty. Born as a lefty. The rhymes I drop, something more than hefty. Roll like a ranger. Poobah's no stranger. For those who try to diss me, danger. Used to drink the Oli, cool as just for goalie. When I play soccer with the drugs, I play goalie. His steps the one that's capable of slaughtering. For those who wanna bike, get the catalog and start ordering. Cause Poobah shit is on stock. I shake the wig like a wood block. I like to dip, dive. A Benz I'm soon to drive. I guess you can call this my 9 to 5. I send my left to scoop skins with my skin buster. Freak the mind of up behind in Augusta, Georgia. But hang on for a sec. You don't have to worry about the Poobah getting wrecked. Cause to me, see, it's more than likely. And if I flow too fast, let me slow down slightly. Let's take a trip, expenses pay money grip. Don't flake or flam, cause Poobah's not having it. Derek X to the right. Come on, clap your hands for Zulu Nation. Step to the rear, Grand Poobah's on arrival. Raised in the ghetto, singing songs called Survival. Running around town, giving all the girls Poobah snacks. I wouldn't try to steal a style, you just might catch a cardiac. Figured the way to get paid is to grab the mic rehearse, you know. Smooth as Jermaine, so honey, don't take it personal. There's no need in trying to diss this swinger. Baby, all you catch is 2 snaps up in the finger. The Barbaloo bad boy, a threat to the paranoia. You try to step to this, it's void. A new hit from the Grand Man, work nights like the Sandman. Game for a work in case I gotta stomp a head out. Busted is a trick that's not up my sleeve. It's possessed with finesse and it works when I breathe. Paid in the shade with the A as the grade with the papes that I made from this trade. So get hip to the grip, you know where to slide the chips if you wanna cash in on the wins. Grand Poobah and I love to hit skins.
And you know what?
You know, with Grand Poobah, every nuance is something that works in his favor. Even a couple of his weaknesses turn out to be strengths. Kind of like with G-Rap. G-Rap has a lisp, a noticeable lisp, but it actually enhances his delivery to me. It's never been annoying to me. It actually enhances his rhymes. With Poobah, every once in a while, it's not that he doesn't have good breath control, but you'll hear him kind of breathe or kind of struggle to breathe, it sounds like sometimes. Like, ironically, just now he said, if you try to steal the style, you just might catch a cardiac. And when he said it, it sounded like he was kind of trying to catch his breath when he said it, but it enhances his style when he does it. So he's one of the few where, like I said, not many weaknesses as far as delivery and rhyme flow. Any perceived weakness works out in his favor. Also, if we're talking about flow, just listen to the way he's flowing on that verse. You know, paid in the shade with the A is the grade with the papes that I made from this trade. So get hip to the grip, you know where to slide the chips if you want to cash in on the wins. I mean, you know, he flows like that for a minute on that verse. Just multiple techniques being used within one verse.
Let me get busy on this. See, brothers be wishing, that's why they're eager to listen. Trying to do me, but see, there's no competition. Grand Poobah's the type to get hyped to any funky sound. Never the type to give a damn about a hand-me-down. Papers and rhymes are mine, stack high like lumber. If Hun wants to swing at, she takes my beeper number. The skills go back to the days of flipping coins. Past time reading books by my man down the Goins. But I'm not a pimp, and I don't walk with a limp. You can stand on the game, cause I know how to treat a dame. So knock 3 times on my ceiling if you got the feeling. Grand Poobah's good for sexual healing. Lord have mercy, this is lovely, I'll say splendid. Poobah's on the stage and I'm glad you all attended. Rhyming to the beat is the way I make my money. I buy sweets for my sweets and no sugar for my honey. Brothers get paid for their papes. And if my stunts try to play me, I'll hang on like some drapes. Poobah's the man and you can't run the flame, so take it elsewhere, my dear, my dear. See, others try so hard to be this. Competition tries so hard to see this. But I let them know I'm not the one. So see the next one, the next one. I'll slap 5 to a brother who ain't about no job. I'll smack 10 to a friend who hooked me off with skins. See, I'm the type of brother and I like to have fun. She said 69, I said 68, and I owe you one. The style I kick, you will remember. And when I step to other rappers, you better yell timber, cause they're falling. They're falling. They're falling.
Yeah. Grand Poobah Maxwell is definitely a true MC, a true shit talker on the mic, and he connects those words perfectly. I'm the type of brother, and I like to have fun. She said 69, I said 68, and I owe you one. Just, very clever with his rhymes. And again, that whole verse, just mastery as far as delivery and wordplay.
Here comes the Poobah, and you know I won't fake it. Usually bust records on getting butt naked. Made for the Benzie. Drive a nigga skinsy, pump the tape, grab your naked with the Poobah frenzy. Come on, honey thing, don't ya try to eject slow downs. What you say once my joint gets erect? Some try to copy, but they just can't sketch it. Some try to follow, but they just can't catch it. With the boom, boom, tap, yeah, all of that. I'm living fat, me fall off, there be none of that. See who's the one to flip it? Quick to tell a nigga to zip it, so drink the 40, cause we ain't got time to sip it. Grand Poobah got body. Kick some of them, some of those, and some yachty. As dope as they come, suckers sing or hum. Don't try to step to this, you know you shit is slum. First batter up, well here's the pitch, it's a curve. Second batter up because the first got served. The one who arouses a browse for a blouse, kick styles by the piles as I leave a chill for miles. Skis when I please, hit from here to Tel Aviv. I'm getting G's, no more time for the line of free cheese. Here's the 411, the one who gets the job done. I know you know the flavor of the Poobah. Yeah, nah, this how we bump.
And that was from his Real to Real 1992 solo release. Of course, he would eventually, inevitably, go solo. But Poobah's name is just one that you just don't hear very often, if at all, in these conversations about great lyricists. And, people talk about the greatest of all time, and I've stated several times my position on that. I don't really believe in the whole concept of a greatest of all times. I at best, I believe in discussing, greats from different eras. But greatest of all time, it's just too much criteria involved to try to get to who's the greatest of all time. And it just don't matter to me that much. I think it's a fruitless argument, a fruitless conversation. I guess it's fun for those who indulge in such a conversation, but I just rather enjoy great MCs from every era. And it's cool to reminisce on them and dissect their lyrics and just reflect on the brilliance of them. Now, the last MC that completes the five is an MC who goes quite a bit further back than the other four that I previously mentioned, and it's my good friend Tila Rock. Now, I've interviewed Tila Rock, and I hope to soon do a story on Tila Rock and his brother Special K. But outside of It's Yours, people don't really talk about Tila Rock a lot when they're talking about past lyricists that were great, and there are quite a few records other than It's Yours that deserve some review as far as I'm concerned.
I can be hard like metal or soft like butter. So MC's in the place, please don't stutter. When you hear my name, you'll feel no shame, cause at the end it will all turn out the same. So jump up and grab a girl, let's break the ice. Cooperate or I'll be forced to switch the dice, cause I'm slick as oil. Flex like coil, won't rust or wrinkle like aluminum foil. Don't try to resist or even flake, cause I'll box you out till you begin to shake. I won't damage you or leave a single scratch, but I'll make you regret you were considered a match to confront or deal. Or shall I say feel the knowledge and power of these concentrated skills. To describe these rhymes will be difficult to you. I have written documents just to prove to you I'm the officiated ruler of the MC kingdom. Won't run or bite, only write and sing them. Take this advice, tell it to your friend. Tila Rock's gonna rock till the party ends. My name is Tila Rock, I got the heart of a lion. I never give up, I just keep on trying like bats can't see. The sting of a bee like something amazing you see on TV. Just like an old time to the early days. My name is Tila Rock and I'm here to amaze. With a certain kind of power, I can never go sour. Every day on the hour, sucker MCs out the power like a knob on the door. The key to the lock, if you don't have the key, then you'll have to knock. When you come to the door, just have a grin, cause if you don't, then you won't get in. Be yourself, don't try to act fly, cause if you do, I might pass you by. Cause I'm known to rock a party, never ended abrupt. So come on party, people get up and get up and get down.
And keep in mind, this is 1985. That's Breakdown from the He's Incredible EP produced by him and his brother Special K of the Treacherous 3. And I always love that lyric, like bats can't see the sting of a bee, like something amazing that you see on TV. They were just early wordsmiths in the game.
A fresh rhyme in the brain is what I contain. Let it out with a shout and it's bound to stain a part in your heart Flex on your set virtue. I make your head curl, head swirl, put you in shock. I possess an element to start you on my job. When I finish, I'll diminish, then I'll laugh in your face and try to build up your ego, put it in the right place. On a scale of intelligence, I score a 10. It will be a revelation from beginning to end. Breaking bell. Breaking bell. Breaking bell. When it comes to spoken lyrics and programming drum tracks.
I'm sending you a message double dunked in bass. Fade so deep, the voice won't erase. Meditated thoughts, powered by the mind. Every verse is guarded by a patent design. I'm a musical artist with a visual image. Reaching and searching for a musical scrimmage line. Shielding myself with a decorated screen. Reading undetected but enough to intervene. Counting the seconds, living day by day. Expressing myself in a musical way. Power and wealth are important for a goal. My expressions is a mirror reflecting my soul. Physical drive, harnessed by restraint. Able to revive and cause a person to faint. Macho, stud, gentleman, polite, cute and cool, and all around the light. Pushing and pulling for majority rule. As cunning as a fox with the kick of a mule. I'm the TLAROCK. That's all I have to say. Say. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Commentating, illustrating, description giving, adjective expert, analyzing, summarizing musical myth seeking people of the universe. This is yours. Taking a record that's already made with the help of the mix board used in the crossfade. Rhythm can be kept to a self-choice pace depending on moment or depth of bass. I don't really know, but somebody said some musical rhythms can mess with your head. I don't know if it's true. I leave it up to you. Common talk deserves a walk. The situation's changed. Everything said from now on has to be prearranged. Definitely, you will agree. Just let your mind be free. Relax yourselves, do your dance. This is the place to be. Listen.
So definitely, Tila Rock is another who has several more displays of lyrical abilities that we could dig through, and you just got to go and go through his discography and check out some of Tila Rock's work. Definitely a superior MC. And again, the difference between him and the other four that I highlighted this time is the fact that he goes back to like the late 70s as an MC, and in the mid 80s. He definitely was responsible for bringing a new style that influenced a lot of other MCs, and definitely opened up things lyrically in that part of the mid '80s. So big up to my man Tila Rock. And again, this is Jayquan, Foundation lesson number 18. 5 deadly venoms, 5 MCs who are great MCs that go unrecognized in our daily conversations online and in the barbershops and everywhere where we talk about lyricism and MCs of the past. These are just MCs that I feel like they go unrecognized. So I just wanted to highlight their work, spotlight their work, and kind of re-examine some of the greats from the past. Hope you found it educational, enlightening, and entertaining. You can hit me up at The Foundation, THAFoundation.com. All social media is Jayquan VA. Peace.